Welcome to another episode of It's a Long Beach Thing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and like us on It's a Long Beach Thing on our Facebook group. We have a fantastic Facebook group. You can share your business, you can share your personal life as long as it's about Long Beach. We have an excellent treat for you today. We have the athletic director for Long Beach State, Go Beach, Bobby Smitheran with us. Bobby, how are you today?
I'm great, Paul. Go Beach, definitely, and excited to be with you here this morning.
Right on. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right on. So, what is your first association with this great city of Long Beach?
Well, it's a long and deep association, so excuse me if I ramble on here a little bit, but it's a long one. So, it starts in 1917 with my great grandfather came to Long Beach, and raised his family here. My grandfather was one of the first. Um, he was the first to score a touchdown in Wilson High School football history,
Well,
and raised his kids here. My dad and his two brothers, Bill and Dave. My dad Jack, and so Long Beach for me was a place that I came to visit my grandparents. I was born and raised in Riverside. My dad was the head baseball coach at UC Riverside. So much of my childhood, excuse me, was spent coming to Long Beach to visit family and to have those 4th of July celebrations on Los Alamitos Bay. My uncle had a house on the peninsula. And so just a lot of time visiting family. My grandparents' house, as it stands, as the crow flies, is probably a mile or less from Long Beach State from our campus. So, it just has always had those special feelings for me visiting the city of Long Beach, having time with family. And it's so having this opportunity to come here, be the athletic director at Long Beach State, it's just kind of a full circle moment for me.
there's got to be a lot of pride, right, with your dad being a staple at UC Riverside and wanting to carry on that transition for you, but being your own person as well.
Yeah, I would say pride and pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure from the standpoint of making sure that I do a great job for our student athletes, our coaches, our staff here at Long Beach State, but also the community because I really understand and feel the immense pride that people have for the city of Long Beach, for Long Beach State. When I was at San Diego State recently, before I came to Long Beach State, we played in a regional here at Blair Field, and to see that experience and that vibe at Blair Field, you could just get a sense of, again, the pride that people have for all things beach, dirtbags, and Long Beach State related.
Well, let's go through that journey a little bit with you because I know you're humble about this, but you were a pretty good athlete. You were a pretty good baseball player back in the day.
I was okay. When you're 5'7", you better be able to do something to contribute. And so, I was good enough to play Division I baseball at the University of New Mexico, and certainly had a great experience there that I think set the foundation for why I'm in college athletics. And certainly that was a transformational time in my life, and to really have that experience of wanting to give back to our student athletes to understand the experience I had, the lessons I learned, and then now be in a space where I can kind of give that back from a leadership standpoint has been really great.
So let's talk about that in high school. Obviously, if you're playing D1 ball in high school, you were a stud. So talk about that scholarship process for you of wanting to go to various schools and that thought process for you. Where did you go to high school? I'm somewhere in Riverside, I assume.
Yeah, I went to Riverside Poly High School, which was known for having a great baseball program. And, so I think being the son of a coach, I was always in and around the sport of baseball. I grew up on a baseball field, basically. And, I had that passion, that desire to want to compete at the highest levels. And so that, recruiting process was, it's unlike what it is these days, right? It feels like the Stone Ages compared to what recruits go through nowadays. But for me, it was about finding the right fit, the right institution, the right coaching staff, and I kind of had this desire to get out of the state of California, maybe have a different experience, and yet the recruiting process you sometimes you don't get to dictate that as the recruit, right? It's who's expressing interest in you. And so I had a couple institutions I was looking at. The University of New Mexico was something that appealed to me. The head coach, Rich Alday, was somebody that had played for my dad back at Emporia State, one of my dad's first coaching stints. And so I just there was a comfort there, I think, and an opportunity to play. I think that was the big thing for me was I wanted to go somewhere that I had an opportunity to play, and I thought that I could do that at New Mexico, and enjoyed my time there and was able to play.
We'll talk about it. You grew up in Southern California with the hustle and the bustle. Forgive me, I've never been to New Mexico, but I'm assuming that the energy level around the city is probably not the same as Southern California. So talk about that transition as a young man from Southern California going to somewhere like New Mexico.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience, and one that I think when you are out someplace new by yourself, you have to me it was a great it taught me a lot of life lessons, and I think being on your own and in a different place, and I never had a baseball game uh, canceled because of a dust storm, and had those experiences. It snowed in Albuquerque, and had those different kind of experiences as well. So it gave me a chance to see a different part of the country, and with obviously being on a baseball team, we were in the Western Athletic Conference at the time, and I think there were 4 weeks in a row that we had road trips to BYU, Utah, Air Force, and Wyoming, and that was somehow ended up in Sports Illustrated because of the mileage that we were doing every week. But those road trips, are where those are my best memories of playing college baseball. It's not the games or what happened. It's about being with your teammates and just the fun that you got to have on the road with your brothers that you were competing with.
Talk about being the captain. Obviously, you must have been a leader for them to pick you as the captain of the team.
Maybe I was the last guy standing, Paul. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Drew the shortest straw. Yeah, I think certainly being a coach's son and somebody that prided myself on playing the game the right way and working hard. I think were things that my teammates could see in me, and certainly appreciate that opportunity to be in a leadership role there.
And was there any thoughts of you playing pro ball after that, after the fact in New Mexico, or what was your thought process then?
Yeah, you got to be good enough to play pro ball, Paul. And while I was good enough to be a Division I player, I don't think that was in. I knew that wasn't in my cards. My goal was to hopefully earn a scholarship, get an education, and play college baseball, and I achieved that. And the next thing for me was to look what was that career going to be, hopefully in and around college athletics, and was able to land on my feet.
So we've had private conversations, and you talked about like you just don't think about just being an athletic director. So talk to me about your thought process of okay, I'm now graduate college with my bachelor's at New Mexico. I know you have your master's. Was that in the cards right away that you were going to get?
No, it wasn't. I first went to Clovis High School in Fresno. I was chasing my wife at the time, and she was at Fresno. So went to Clovis High School as a baseball coach. Thought I wanted to coach and teach at the high school level, and had a great experience. And that team, I was, I think, the third or fourth assistant coach on the roster. But that team finished number one in the nation by USA Today. This was in 2007. And so, excuse me, 1997. So it was something that I had to have that experience of is high school coaching for me. And I realized that that was maybe not the route, even with a team that did as well as it did. And so went back to graduate school to get a master's degree in sports administration. And then really took that time to do some internships within the athletics department at the University of New Mexico with their faculty athletics representative and their compliance office, with the ticket office as well. And just really loved my experience being in and around the athletics department. And so took that opportunity to build off of that, and really wanted to be in something that was student services related. And so that experience in the compliance office was what kind of led to my trajectory to go to the University of North Texas as my first job and as a compliance coordinator, and then took off from there.
And then was your wife with you at that time in North Texas?
Yes.
Wow. So then you went from North Texas. Is that then when you went to UCI, or where'd you go after it?
Yeah, so North Texas, then to UC Irvine, and it was an opportunity to get closer to home, and Texas was great, but a Southern California boy is a Southern California boy, so appreciate the opportunity to come home and be in Orange County, and that was a really transformational time for me in my career. UC Irvine started the baseball program back at that time. This was around 1999, 2000. And so that was really a great, opportunity to learn and wear a lot of different hats in a department where, we were staffed appropriately for a mid-major, and that meant that was able to have a lot of different opportunities.
And then how did San Diego State come calling for you?
Yeah, it was an interesting time in my life. Took a little detour, got out of college athletics for about a year and was in real estate appraising. And my timing was impeccable because that was around the crash in the economy. And so realized quickly that this was not the world for me and that college athletics was really where my heart and passion was. And so at that time, a position opened up at San Diego State and was lucky enough to get in there and then spent the next 15 years in a variety of capacities at San Diego State.
Let's go back for a second. I did not know that about the appraisal thing. I came from the real estate background too, so I want to get into that. So, what made you, because of the fact that you've been in academia for so long, where was a little bit of burnout, where you're thinking, well, let me try something else and maybe make a little bit extra cash type of thing?
Yeah, I'm going to chalk it up to a midlife crisis around 30 years old. And, I didn't get the Corvette or an earring. I went out and did a whole different line of work. And I had a friend who had a real estate appraising business and thought it was going to be a great opportunity financially. And at the time, I had a young child, and you look at life through a different lens, and that was the opportunity that was in front of me. But again, as I said, Paul, I think as quickly as I got into it, I realized, my heart and soul and my passion is with college athletics, and I think that's what was great about that experience. It was that it reminded me and taught me really where I should be and where my focus needed to be.
And you're moving up the ranks at San Diego State. Talk to me little bit about maybe some of the growing pains of obviously when you go higher in the ranks, there's more responsibilities and sometimes things fall through the cracks. So talk to me about those growing pains and learning through that.
Yeah, I really had to take a step back when I went to San Diego State. I left UCI as an assistant athletic director, and I went into a lesser role because that's, as competitive as jobs in college athletics, that's what the opportunity was in front of me. So, but it was great because I really was able to get a foundation of working with all the coaches within the athletics department. I was in a admissions and recruiting type role, supporting all the coaches there. And so it really just introduced me to a lot of different facets of the institution because I was connecting with different parts of the campus community. And then Rocky Long, the head football coach at New Mexico, walked in my office one day and said, "Are you interested in being a director of football operations?" And that really came out of left field. That was not something that I was tracking on, but it was an incredible opportunity and to be on a coaching staff. And I think it gave me a greater appreciation, certainly in the role that I'm in now as a director of athletics, to be on a coaching staff and to really understand the pressure points that coaches face because a lot of times they're judged on wins and losses. And certainly those 2 years that I was in that role, I think just really taught me a lot about, again, the challenges our coaches face and the support that they need from the administration to be successful in their programs. And then I was able to maneuver to another role in the administration after that experience and just really have a seat at the table and learn from our athletic director, a couple athletic directors I worked for. And I think that's what really prepared me for this role at Long Beach State.
At what point in time were you thinking, oh, you know what? I think I want to be an athletic director. This is in my blood. This is something I want to do. I want to run the athletic department.
I think it's something that you always, it's kind of, you have your eyes on the prize, right? You see the role, you're looking at the decisions that the athletic director that you work for is making, and being in the room to, to understand and really learn from those experiences. And certainly my time at San Diego State was really a transformational one for the athletics department. When you think of Snapdragon Stadium, that was built for the football program, as well as to be a multi-purpose facility in the city of San Diego. And seeing the basketball program grow to the ranks that had an opportunity to compete for a national championship. And so, again, it was just really a transformational time. And I think gave me a lot of lessons and insight into what running an athletics department might look like. And for me, it was always about put your head down, do as good of a job as you can, learn, grow, and then you just see what opportunities may arise for you.
And how was that interview process for you with Long Beach State?
It was great. It was a very fascinating one for me from the standpoint. I kind of believe in signs a little bit, and the day before my first round Zoom interview that I had, I was seeing the LB logo in the city. We were in Sacramento. My family happened to be in Sacramento at the time, and that LB logo was showing up in different places, and it was really kind of interesting, to have that experience. But the interview process really gave me an insight into the staff, the community, because there were representatives from all the different facets of our campus and Long Beach community. And to really, I think you learn as people are learning about me through that process. I was learning about Long Beach State as well. And so it was a very thorough process, and just really appreciated obviously how it went because I'm sitting in the chair.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, which I feel is probably the hardest part of your job is you're looking university, you're looking athletics first and foremost. That's your top priority. And by doing that, you have to make decisions that maybe the masses of Long Beach State and people looking in may look at it and go, what in the heck is he doing? But you have to be steadfast in your decisions and knowing that you're going to have to take some brunt because you're feeling you're doing what's right for the university, and maybe people at first may not see that vision until it unfolds. So talk about that process, about having to be that guy.
Yeah, but I think, Paul, there's a variety of stakeholders in any decision that you make, whether it's coaches, student athletes, staff, campus community, the Long Beach community. So anytime that you're going through that process, you've got to factor in all those different constituents and really gleaning all the information that you can to make the right decision. And these are just very, very different times in intercollegiate athletics, right? And so you can come in with a plan, and that plan has to be very moldable because these are just, we're learning something new. It feels like every day I get a piece of information that, you didn't see that coming, or that's new. And so it really, you have to be very, you have to have the ability to adjust on the fly, but still making very data-based informed decisions as you work through that.
Yeah, and that gets into, you talk about different times. We talk about, I heard you speak recently at the Century Club meeting about NIL, and I want to talk about it a little bit, but I know that could dominate the conversation. I don't want to have that dominate the conversation. But my question to you on NIL, being a mid-major at Long Beach State, and I don't expect, and I think most of our community feels the same way. We don't expect us to compete with the Dukes and in the North Carolinas and the Notre Dames, but obviously we want to be competitive in the Big West Conference. So with the rules that are hitting NIL and that it's affecting the whole conference, how do we stack up with the other schools in the Big West?
Yeah, I think, Paul, that's something that is going to, I think the next couple of years will really demonstrate that, because we're all still learning as much about what's coming down the pike as everybody else. And as I was just saying, the rules of engagement seem to change on the daily. So, name, image, likeness is something that is here to stay. And as we look at football playing institutions at Power Four conferences versus non-football playing institutions like ours in the Big West Conference, we have to do what's right for us and really understand who we are and be the best that we can be, right? That in the Big West Conference, we're going to compete, be one at the upper echelon of competing for championships. That's what we've done historically, and that's how we see ourselves moving forward. And then it's also having the opportunity to compete on a national scale. And certainly, as you look at our men's volleyball program, and there's some, unique differences in a variety of sports that we have in terms of the makeup of competing institutions, we do have the opportunity to compete on a national level. And then, you want to just be able to shoot your shot if you can get into that NCAA tournament for basketball or whatever the sport is. And all things being equal, sometimes we have an opportunity to compete against anybody. And I think you've seen that this year with our softball program took Oklahoma to the brink in 11 innings and was right there with them. So, all things being equal, we're able to compete. And certainly as we think about how we move forward, name, image, likeness, revenue sharing, all these kind of buzzwords that you're hearing about college athletics, a lot is still yet to be determined. And once we have the full rules of engagement, then we'll be able to put a plan together to move forward and hopefully compete, on a national scale.
I wonder, because this is huge and this is here to stay, I wonder if your guys will develop a department just for this reason to raise money for athletics to be competitive. Is that something that might be in the works down the road?
Well, we already raise money within the athletics department to go towards scholarships and our operating budgets. And so I think that's the challenge is that name, image, likeness is kind of one bucket, if you will, and that has some uniqueness to it from the standpoint that there are not individual tax write-offs for that, but we do offer that in terms of, if people want to donate to the athletics department, that has that tax write-off for that. So, there's different ways that people can donate, but certainly NIL is a way that we can be flexible and creative in terms of how we retain our student athletes, but also recruit the best athletes that we can.
Yeah. And you mentioned volleyball that, traditionally Long Beach State has been a powerhouse in that sport nationally. And I go to the games and it's raucous. It's an unbelievable energy, men and the women. And by the way, I love the fact that you gave Coach Natalie a shot. This is her first job, and this is a job where like you're on the stage. This is no Mickey Mouse job when you're talking about volleyball. Long Beach State is the staple, and you gave her a shot to be on the stage. So I just talk real quick about that because that you had to have a gut feeling, and I know you did your research on that, but there had to be a little bit of a gut feeling on that because this is her first head coaching job, correct?
Yeah, she was a head coach at the high school level, but certainly her first head coaching job at the Division I level. And the nice part of the interim process that we underwent with Natalie is that we were able to really evaluate her up close for a long period of time, and her ability to retain 100% of the roster in that transition last year, and to retain 100% of the recruits that staff was recruiting. I think says a lot about her leadership, her ability, and then you saw through the course of the season, that's where you really evaluate how a team responds to her coaching, and we got better as the season came to a conclusion. And so, you take all those things into account. Our coaches don't have the luxury of just focusing on coaching a lot of times, right? They're fundraisers. They are, they're worrying about academics. They have all the rules of the NCAA manual to follow. So they're just administratively, there's a lot of work that they have to do. A lot of times coaching is the last thing that they get to do. And so, Natalie just, I think, has in spades the ability to lead young women and also be a leader within our department and our community. And you've seen her get out in the community, and she understands and appreciates that, that Long Beach State women's volleyball is a historically successful program, and she's excited to take on that challenge.
And that's the thing. We look at the volleyball program, and I know the men's doing really well right now, and I get as a community, I mean, and that's not just Long Beach. This is worldwide. Like we like to support winners, so that the volleyball team's doing really well, and that brings a lot of people in. So I just want to kind of transition to men's basketball for a moment. Before the pandemic. That was pretty raucous in the pyramid when the men's basketball program was going on, and then slowly but surely, obviously with the COVID, I feel like the men's program, as far as attendance is concerned, has not recovered. And I know that you brought in Coach Chris, and it's going to take him time, and it's a whole new roster that he's working with right now. So it's going to take him time to do his recruiting and start to really put his stamp on things. So it might take a little bit of time before we start winning in the Big West. But what can we do to bring more people into the pyramid for men's basketball? Because sometimes when I'm going to the games, because I love watching men's basketball, and I look at the student section, and there's not that many people there as opposed to going to a volleyball game.
Well, Paul, bring as many friends as you can to to the basketball games. We've talked a lot here internally about the fan experience. And so you've hopefully seen some changes on the concourse in terms of how we're selling merchandise. We have a beer garden, Chick-fil-A is up there now. And so trying to provide just some different offerings, different experiences that will bring people back. And then I think it's about the product on the court. And that's the best marketer, if you will, of to get people to come is people want to see good basketball. And certainly I've just been extremely proud of this team, the men's basketball team, in terms of how hard they have competed. We have 8 losses that are one possession losses or went into overtime. We had 2 games that went into overtime, 6 games that we've lost by 3 points or less, so one possession. And I just think that really speaks to the culture and the foundation that Coach Acker is laying for the future of this program. And it takes time. Any transition in a head coaching role, it's going to take time. And certainly men's basketball is a sport that has really been impacted by NIL. And so to come into a program that at the time that Chris came in, we didn't have a collective for the men's basketball program. And he went out and did the best job that he could do to identify talent to come in. And we've demonstrated with, going to overtime with UC Irvine, throughout the season, we've demonstrated we can play with anybody. And so I'm really excited about where the program's going. I'm at practices, I'm in the locker room, I see what's happening, and really excited for the foundation and where this program's going to go.
I do too. I've had conversations with Coach Chris, and I like his. I just like his energy, and I do feel it's going to take time. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go into what happened. You've probably been asked that question 2 billion times about the previous coaching staff, but just because of that, everybody left, and so he, like you said, how to just get as many players as possible to fill the roster, and they are playing hard, and so I do see that, and I do see that there's pieces on that team that they'll be there, and I feel with him having a full year of recruiting, I do feel confident that we'll see some great improvements coming forward in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2 high school prospects that he signed are really exciting, and then the transfer portal enables you to go out and identify additional pieces that can help you be competitive right out of the gate. So, in this world of NIL, and especially in the world of men's basketball, you could get good pretty quick. And so I think, certainly, why Coach Acker for me was the head coach in this transition is because of the success and the program that he came from in San Diego State. He knows what championship basketball looks like. He knows what goes into the building blocks of that program. And so, in this day and age of, everything's on our phone and we can hit a button and we get our needs met. This takes time, as you said. And so, he's taking the right building block steps to building a program that can be sustainable for the future.
And another traditional great powerhouse is our men's baseball, the Dirtbacks. And you had the opportunity of hiring a new coach, Coach TJ, who went to St. John Bosco and played for the Dirtbags. And I follow on Instagram quite a bit, and a very motivating guy, very religious guy. Talk about that process on how he was a good fit for the program.
Yeah, with that specific program, you want to identify somebody who comes from a championship background. I wanted to identify somebody who had head coaching experience. I think it's one of the best programs. It is one of the best coaching jobs in the West Coast. And so I thought that we could identify somebody with head coaching experience, but it was also important that it was somebody who had ties to Long Beach, ties to our program. And obviously, TJ, having competed as a dirtbag, been an assistant coach as a dirtbag, having won a national championship as an assistant coach, having been a head coach at the University of Nevada, having been to the College World Series as an assistant coach at TCU 2 years prior to his arriving here at Long Beach State. He checked all the boxes. And then what you've seen since he's been here is an ability to engage the entire Long Beach community. I mean, Paul, I joke that he's the unofficial mayor of Long Beach because every single person that I run into knows TJ from his childhood, or his time here at Long Beach State previously. So he's done a phenomenal job in really bringing the community back together. The alumni certainly are excited about his being the head coach of the Dirtbags. And just like Coach Acker, it's going to take time. And he's certainly putting the pieces in place. We've won the first 3 games in the Tony Gwynn Classic down in San Diego. We play an undefeated Utah today, so that would be a great win to go 4-0 in that tournament. And I think the excitement is back at Bull Diamond at Blair Field, and just really, really excited with the trajectory of that program as well as we keep moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The men's basketball and the Dirtbags, they're kind of going through the same transition, just because the coaches are different and the teams are completely different than a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see the trajectory of both teams with Coach Chris and Coach TJ putting their own stamp on things. I want to transition to golf. I have a friend, and you know him too, John Gatsky. He's huge about golf and Long Beach State golf, and he had a question for you that I wanted to bring up. Is that he wanted to know if there was any pull on getting the golf team their own facility to practice on, because it's very important that they have that consistency and that place where they can have their own facility where they can play golf consistently and build on that.
Yeah, that's a certainly on the top of the wish list for Rob Murray and Alyssa Wade, our head coaches of our golf programs, and we have two of the best in those two head coaches. They are, I don't want to say they're rising stars. I think they're stars. But we're really blessed to have them as head coaches. And that's something that we are evaluating. We're going through a facility master planning process here on campus to really understand where those opportunities may lie for all of our sports, let alone the golf programs. But certainly as you think about in the sport of golf, having to travel, throughout Orange County, Long Beach to find, courses to play at, you'd love to have that campus facility or something that's nearby that you're cutting down the travel time for your student athletes. And so that's on the wish list. It's something that as we finalize this facility master plan, we'll have a better sense of where that opportunity may lie. And then it's about fundraising and going out and identifying folks. So if it's the John Gatsky practice facility, great.
I'll let them know that. Just pony up a little bit there, John.
There you go.
I also wanted to talk about track and field and Coach Sheffield, who was the Olympic coach, and I've heard her speak several times. I love listening to her speak. That passion that comes from her body when she speaks is just next level. So, talk about her and talk about that program because, again, Long Beach State is huge in the nation when it comes to track and field.
Yeah, I just, as long as I don't have to follow Coach Sheffield talking, then I'm always happy because she is an incredible motivational speaker and just, is such an impressive person. And obviously to have the person who was the head coach of the Team USA Women's Track and Field program is we're very lucky here at Long Beach State. So yeah, it's, we just had the NPSF Indoor Track and Field Championships and a lot of great finishes, individual performances, and she and Andy Scythe, the director of our track and field program, have always done a great job of identifying talent and then growing that talent and developing them. And so we host the Big West Conference Outdoor Track and Field Championships this year, and as we think about Coach Scythe in his last year, he's retiring at the end of this season. We want to send him out in style. So excited about the track and field programs. We have just incredible young men and women in those programs and very, very talented individuals, and looking forward to seeing what they do this year.
And I don't want to alienate any other athletics. So you want to highlight some other sports that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'll go through a couple if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Women's basketball, I think, is an interesting, as you were just talking about, transitions and what we see in years 2 and 3. We're seeing that with Coach Amy Wright and her team, and taking, more steps towards winning more games and bringing in more talent into the program. And I think we're going to be. I think if you're in that Big West Conference basketball tournament, I don't think you want to play the beach. We've demonstrated we beat Hawaii earlier in the season, so we're dangerous. And she's done a really great job of developing that program. So really, it's going to be great to see years 3 and 4 and 5 with her, how that program takes steps as well. But softball was the preseason #1 pick in the Big West Conference, so really excited for that program. Had a women's water polo had a win over UC Irvine. Anytime you beat UC Irvine, right? We want to celebrate that. And UCI is #6 in the nation, so that was a great win yesterday. Men's volleyball, obviously undefeated, #1 in the nation, just incredibly exciting and fun to watch. So certainly encourage folks, if they haven't seen our team in action in person, get out to the Walter Pyramid because it's something else. Beach volleyball over the weekend beat Cal and Pepperdine, which was, the Cal win was a great one for us. They beat us last year in the NCAA championships. And so to open up their season with a win over Cal was a great win. Coach Mike Campbell's 200th victory as well. So congratulations to Coach Campbell. So there's just a lot of, this time of year, Paul, we call it the crossover season because we've got the basketballs coming to the conclusion of their seasons. And I think we've got 14 of 19 sports going all at once. So it's a busy time at the beach and just a lot of great things happening.
So with you now, your second year as the AD, and what is the stamp that you want to put on this university, given that you're now in a new era with NIL? Where do you want to take the university as far as athletics going forward?
Yeah, you first start with your student athletes. And for me, I want to ensure that our student athletes have an incredible experience, that they feel supported, appreciated, that they have the opportunity to get a degree and to have the academic support they need, and really growing them as young men and women and ensuring that they leave here at Long Beach State better prepared to contribute to our society. And certainly, my experience, and I think that's a lot of the experience our student athletes have, is you're so invested in who you are as a student athlete that preparation for life after your sport can be challenging. And certainly I had that experience when my playing career was over. So we have a program called Be a Champion, and it's a life skills program that is preparation for life after after Long Beach State University. And so it really enables them to leave with some tools in their toolbox, to have a resume, to know how to network with folks, to have an understanding of who you are, what your interests are in a professional career. And I think that preparation is just so key. Our coaches are giving them that, but then we're also doing it in the classroom as well. So really proud of that. And then we want to compete at the highest levels, Paul. I mean, I'm as competitive as the next person, and we want to win championships at everything that we do. And so the Big West Conference Commissioners Cup identifies that broad-based success within the Big West Conference, and that's an award that we're always chasing because that shows success across all of our programs. Our coaches all have a goal to win a national championship. That's how they start their seasons. And so really putting our student athletes and our coaches in a place to compete for championships, that's going to get harder and harder in this day and age of NIL and conference realignments and all the things that are happening. And so it's really putting our coaches in the best place that we can for them to be competitive. And so that means identifying new revenue sources, and really giving them the resources that they need to compete. And so that's my goal, is that, that in terms of a stamp, that Long Beach State takes the next step in terms of competing for championships, national championships, and that we really put out a product that people can be proud of in our community. And certainly we're a big part, Long Beach State University is a big part of the city of Long Beach. And we want people to be very prideful of the athletics department at Long Beach State.
Well, that makes me feel good that you feel that we still can compete nationally, even with this new NIL, which where you're talking about these other schools, you're talking about Duke and North Carolina and all these schools that have this boosters that maybe a mid-major doesn't have. You feel that there's creative ways that you'll find out a way to be competitive regardless of the money disparity.
Yeah, it's again, creative is the right word, Paul, that you just used. We've got to look at every opportunity to drive new revenues, to look at our partnerships, our contract, whatever it is, that we are, and that we're being strategic with our dollars. I think that's the other thing, that we've got to invest properly in all of our programs so that again, they can compete, and again, that we're providing the right experience for our student athletes. I don't want any of our student athletes to feel like they have less than, or that their needs aren't being met. And so as we think about mental health and well-being and all the challenges that young people face in these dynamic times, we need to be able to provide that. So it's a constant work in progress, and where the NCAA is going to be 3 to 5 years is, I think, anybody's guess. And so we've got to stay up with the times.
Right. Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with? Any message that you want to share with the community that we haven't shared so far?
Yeah, I think it's getting involved, Paul, and I whether it's attending our events, donating their treasure, or just their time, whether it's mentorship, internship of our student athletes. I think people may at times think there's not an avenue to get involved in, and there's a multitude of ways to do that. And so whether it's you're a business owner or you're are raising a young family, there's ways to get involved. And I think when this community rallies around itself, really special things can happen. And so you sit at the men's volleyball match against UCLA, a sold out Walter Pyramid, that kind of collective effervescence, that spirit that's there, is something that is just really, I think, transformational for our student athletes and for our community. And so as really the most probably high profile in terms of, from an athletic standpoint, in the city of Long Beach, we want to be that rallying cry for the community. And so I think there's some really unique opportunities ahead of us to do that.
Well, before you go, I want to leave you with a fun question.
Let's do it.
Where are your favorite places to eat in Long Beach?
So I'm going to give a couple here. All right. So barbecue, I got to go with Naples rib. And Dave Ursini does such a great job of supporting us and our student athletes. But if you want good barbecue, I'm going to Naples Rib. Legends, they do an incredible job, supporting us at Blair Field, and and just a fun place, right, to go watch a game and get great food as well. Boathouse at the Bay. If I'm looking for seafood and a view, I don't think you'd go wrong with Boathouse. And then from a family standpoint, Domenico's on Second is a place that we've been going to. I think my family, not certainly not me because I'm not that old, uh, since it was open, and so that's a place that just even as a young child coming to visit grandparents, we would always go to Domenico's, and I always have to get a handful of those suckers in the big barrel that's there. So it just has those family vibes and experiences for me. So I mean, but my wife and I are trying to eat our way through Long Beach, and I mean, there's just so many incredible places here in the city.
Bobby, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're extremely busy, and it mean the world to me that you took the time to do this podcast with me. I really appreciate it, and I know that you made your dad and your family very, very proud.
Well, it's a work in progress, so I gotta keep working, but really appreciate the time here, Paul, and look forward to seeing you out at games, and appreciate the time.
Very good. It's been a Long Beach thing.